Okay, it's day 32, and a lot of folks are saying, George, how could this be true? How could Cesar Altieri Sayoc have this uncrackable Blackberry? How would he have access to that kind of government technology? How would Julie Swetnick be a part of this CSZNet that wrote this Seaport E application, this application for maintaining, for NAVC, for all the Navy procurement and supplies going back and forth for all the different Navy services, NAV Air, SPAWAR, NAVC, etc. How could this possibly be? And the simple one or two word answer is state support. And I'll show you how you can go from a system that was supposed to organize and integrate purchases for the Navy going into our ports, how that became a prime target for a backdoor for criminal networks. And I just take you through it once at a time. So Julie Swetnick here, you can see she's got the Secretary of of State. She's getting passports in Miami. She's a Miami passport machine. She's also got U.S. Mint top secret clearance. She's also got top secret clearance at Department of Homeland Security, Department of Customs and Border Patrol, and she's a Lockheed worker for all that period of time. That's how, because she's really a Lockheed employee, and the back door is built by Lockheed. But I'll go through this a little bit with you, with Raytheon and Lockheed kind of as unholy partners in this crime network. But if in all these things, you're going to need to bring up a cadre of people in the Department of Justice, FBI people and so forth, to allow a situation like this to occur, right? So this is, if you want to learn more about Julie Swetnick, you can just go through all my videos here, but I identified several what they call cutouts, where it may not be MAVNI, it may not be a government military program called MAVNI, which just has 10,000 people on its face, if you look at the Wikipedia entry, but it could be one of these things called a cutout, which is called Development Alternatives, Inc. This is a way of basically copying MAVNI and put a humanitarian face on it so weapons can be shipped under humanitarian cover, but it's MAVNI just the same. It's a drugs for weapons scheme just the same. The same way that the other ones we've talked about, like Chemonics and so forth. And there's going to be a whole bunch of these. It's not just one or two of these. I identified a guy named Bob Otto, who was like our Bob Otto in the CIA and our little Russia working group. He also had one of these humanitarian covers. And there, you'll see there's lots of them. There's never just one. There's always dozens. So where does it all come from? Where does it all come from? Well, here's William Weld. You may remember him. He was the vice president for Gary Johnson in the ill-fated campaign that he ran. And you can see that he was a very big part of the Department of not only Governor of Massachusetts, but he was the Attorney General for the Massachusetts for a long time. And also he was a U.S. attorney as he was going through his career. And as you can see, he was for a while flirted with being vice president. But his key contact, his key person that he worked with was this Bill Bulger here. This guy here is a very famous politician in Massachusetts politics. He was the head of the Senate in Massachusetts for 18 years. Again, the waterfront, just think of all the different waterfronts in Massachusetts. And his older brother was Whitey Bulger. So when you put these people in charge of things like the Department of Justice, and their older brother is one of the most notorious criminals that never was prosecuted over 30 years, you can see it happening right in front of your eyes. You can see that you're bringing in mercenaries from overseas, the Cesar Sayocs, to take out the previous mob so that you can become the new mob, you know? Meet the old mob, same as the new mob, as the song goes. So you're going to need apparatchiks or people within inside the Department of Justice to affect this. And I've done deep dives on Peter Strzok, for instance. He starts in the Boston area with a database, which is called the Promise database, which is all law enforcement. And basically, his job is to recruit all those people into the FBI. That's why young Peter Strzok, as a 26-year-old, is sitting in the FBI headquarters giving people lie detector tests. Again, not me. This is an open lawsuit for the for the FBI. Go back to 1995 and look at the Peter Strzok case. Now, people say, how could that possibly happen? How could a 26-year-old be screening all the people coming and going in the FBI, right? Well, as I said before, he spent a lot of his time in the Army before he got to Washington, D.C., because he comes in the back door through DTRA, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, after 9/11. And I believe they're all basically being trained as reserve officers, as intelligence officers. They're coming out of the 101st Airborne or wherever, and then they're going into, now this is the Reserve Command here, the 108th Training Command, but there's also something called initial education training for the Intelligence Command if you want to go into the different intelligence services. It's currently run by Brigadier General Kathy Leahy. And if you look at these folks' background, it's very much like Mike Flynn. They're usually in the field doing collection, signal intelligence collection. Then they get into a position where they're organizing and analyzing the signal intelligence. Then they move up the ranks in different theaters of war. She was in Bosnia, she was in Kosovo, etc. Lots of flights, 12,000 flights, humanitarian flights. Again, humanitarian flights are perfect to target. And again, she doesn't know anything about this, right? She's just making sure the flights go from point A to point B. It's the flight officers that are bringing the contraband in and out of Bosnia and Kosovo. And again, that's the Mujahideen going in and out. Now she is currently running this initial intelligence center in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is going to be where I believe Cesar Sayoc gets trained. When he comes in from the Philippines, he's going to go through this program. I believe all the people, all 300 of the Hard Rock folks that have come in are going to be coming through this kind of military intelligence organization. Not just the Filipinos, not just the Hawans go through this training, but all the Mavni folks go through this training. They all need to become reserves. And basically, after you get your reserve training in intelligence, you then go on to doing most common job would be getting an IT job somewhere. Now, again, that's not a bad thing if the person's loyal to the United States of America. But if you're being hired as a spy or as someone who's hacking, then that's a very bad thing, because now you're working for people like Bill Weld instead of working for people like the United States of America.